to get Rich up here so that he can let folks know about some of the exciting things that we're going to be doing with the LPI Academy. So I'm Ross Brunson. You see the introduction to the LPI Academy here. One of the things that I want to do is to very quickly introduce the other folks in the room who have something to do with LPI. Chuck Bixby, not Bill Bixby's brother. Chuck is the Regional Business Director for LPI in North America, and that means sales guy. And so Chuck is responsible for North America contingent. I have worldwide responsibility for member services, but I spend a lot of time working with North America. It's a newer territory, and there's a lot of fun stuff going on. Also in the room is Rich Weeks of NDG. Rich is going to get up a little later on and show you some very cool things, including our free courseware that's going to be in the NetSpace Academy. Again, like I said, I'm Ross Brunson. I'm Director of Member Services, and my job is to bring new, interesting, fun things to our constituency. LPI is quite large. We have about 275,000 candidates. About half of those are certified professionals, so about 135,000 certified professionals. Do I see Vinny in the room? That's what I thought. No pirate costume, dude. What's up? Okay, all right. Okay. No Mario costume either. All right. Good. It's always nice to know the recognition system is still working. All right, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. This is the LPI Academy presentation. We're going to quickly talk to you about who LPI is. We'll talk very shortly and quickly about the certification landscape. What's the LPI Academy program? Lots of good, free, and fun stuff in there. There's courseware and curriculum for you, access to labs, and then a few resources for you. So let's jump right into who the Linux Professional Institute is. Anybody know who LPI is, besides the characters in the back row? Anybody encountered LPI? So LPI is a workforce development institute. We're dedicated to the development of Linux and open source professionals, all the way from don't know anything about Linux and open source up to I've had a stellar career in Linux and open source, and now for some reason I need to prove the skills that I know that I already have. So how many of you are believers in certification? Right? Most people are. Now, just a very quick one, I won't do this whole thing like Rich does about how many of you are not going to raise your hands, but I want to ask you, how many of you can attribute getting a job or a career advancement mostly to certification? Anybody do that one? Okay. I got one of my first jobs because I had a certification. Everything else was equal, same skills, same everything, same interview process, down to 2 candidates. I happened to have 6 more points because I was a veteran, which got me 3 points, and I had a certification, and that got me another 3 points. Now, the whole process that I go through with people about why certifications are important, regardless of anything else, is that certification is something that can, all other things being equal, get you into the interview process. And no use standing outside the candy store going, hey, all that candy looks great. If you can't get into the interview process, it's hard to get the job. Is that a fair statement? Okay, so for me, it's all about getting you into that. My responsibility and LPI's responsibility is to bring together the collection of vendors, programs, corporate members, etc., interesting folks who do fun things, and inform our students, our candidates, and put them on what we like to call a lifelong and very lucrative career path. There's never been a better time to be into Linux and open source. It was kind of dry there for a few years. The demand has been kicking up heavily. So that's all we do these days is run around and try to convince folks that this is a good thing and that they ought to put their students into this track. So why would you teach Linux and open source? Let's give you a few proof points that we have talked about quite a bit. There's a number of studies that are out. Again, Chuck is in the back. Chuck can send you links or copies to these studies. Now, most of the time I look at the studies and go, well, this is somebody trying to prove something so that they can get, a $5,000 subscription to whatever the thing is. However, we get so many job requests and candidates that come together under the LPI realm that we know that these are true. We have empirical evidence, and we see that this is happening in our industry. So if you take a look at the Linux Foundation does a lot of really good studies. They're a sister organization, brother organization, whatever, to us. They cover the kernel and development of Linux. We cover system administrators and the other professionals in the field. So if anybody ever asks you which one is which, we're mostly the sysadmins, they're mostly the kernel developers. They are run on contributions and fees from the industry partners. We are a membership and testing organization, so there's definitely differences between the two there. They happen to have money to do a lot of reports, and we love the fact that they do them, so we don't have to. If you take a look at what we're seeing as a trend, Linux in the enterprise has been growing for about the last 6 years or so, but the really interesting numbers of the last 3 years. There's been a lot of rise. Last 3 years in a row, you see almost everything that's happening in the cloud is happening in Linux. How come? Anybody give me one single reason why you see mostly Linux being used in the cloud? 2 words, license fees. You don't have to pay a license fee in order to use Linux in the cloud. I don't have to have a license compliance officer in order to make sure that the business software administration doesn't come and shut us down because we're using it. Yes, sir?
Do you consider virtualization products like VMware to be a Linux product?
It's funny, VMware is Linux.
Well, I said the kernel and that in Linux,
yeah,
when I'm loading,
yeah,
starting up my VMware environment, I see many of the same modules that I would see in Linux.
I almost don't even consider it to be operating system related because of the infrastructure layer that it inhabits. It's almost as if it's soft hardware in a way, but yes, it is Linux-based. ESX is Linux-based. So, and that's why you see that being used. That's why you see a lot of the cloud being powered by Linux. We look at Unix and Windows as dropping market share. We see this from the reports. We see this in the industry. You can see it in the number of jobs that are available for virtualization. Mission critical, Linux is heavy in mission critical workloads, and this rapid growth that we're seeing is causing a real concern about Linux talent. Recruiters are busy looking for Linux talent right now. Linux talent costs more. AKA, if you're Linux talent, you get paid more. Is that a bad thing? No, not at all. It's a good thing if you're getting paid. It also takes a few less Linux system administrators per the same number of desktop or server machines than it does on the Windows side. This is something that a lot of people lose track of. You're going to see the top 3 drivers right now is the feature set that Linux gives you, the complete flexibility to do pretty much anything you want within the law. Total cost of ownership, which is less license fees, maintenance costs less, sysadmins cost a little more, that's okay, and then security, of course. Now, one of the things that a lot of people in this market don't quite get is that if you are a third world organization outside of the United States, anywhere outside the United States, I did not just call the entire world third world outside of the United States. Let's be clear about that. Okay. Fill out your evaluations now. He said, okay. All right, later on I'll mispronounce things. When we look at security, people outside of the United States rightfully, I think, especially in this day and age, look upon anything manufactured solely within the United States as probably containing a backdoor for the NSA. Right or wrong, that's how they consider it. Can I say that categorically that that is not true? No, I really can't. So the value of being able to have my programmers as a governmental organization take apart Linux stitch by stitch, verify that my distribution of Linux, for example Spain's, is 100% NSA backdoor free, that's a lot of peace of mind. Yes, sir?
I would probably question that in that the NSA was embedding it in the BIOS and it would have nothing to do with OR.
Anybody remember the Clifford chip? Yeah. Okay, that was one of their early attempts to do this. Dyson Linux Foundation, an additional report, came out with 9 out of 10 managers say that finding Linux talent is difficult and that they need it. 93% of employers plan to hire a Linux Pro or additional Linux Pros in the next 6 months. We see that being true. Chuck can verify we get job requests all the time. We get people who will call us up and say, I need 30 contractors for a particular gig in South America, whatever it is. Okay, we start hooking people up. That's what caused us to build our jobs initiative, which we'll talk about. Again, top 3 reasons for these demand. Companies are growing. When companies grow and they have to put out more machines, what do? They turn to an increased use of Linux. It's inexpensive. Migration to Linux systems is happening as well. A good example of this would be over at 1 Market Street, Salesforce. Salesforce has been busily converting people over from the Windows side to the Linux side for several years now at a fairly high wholesale rate. Why? Because they can save a lot of money on license fees and infrastructure by doing it that way. Okay, certification landscape. Let's talk about what LPI offers you. LPI has 4 levels or layers. The first one here is Linux Essentials. Linux Essentials is an introductory, I don't know much about Linux and open source, but I'm quite curious about it, style program. It's a great way to get your feet wet in Linux and open source, understand what distributions are, how the software licenses work, get some experience on the command line, learn some commands, be a pretty reasonable desktop user of Linux. And I like to say that anybody who has ever taken the A+ certification should consider taking Linux Essentials. Why? Because increasingly you're going to encounter Linux systems in your organization. It's a great place to be if you have Linux talent and your organization decides they're going to start using Linux. You may find yourself involved in a very exciting project. If you're the person who's standing there going, well, maybe I should have studied this, as other people go off to do this cool project, that's not such a great position. Linux Essentials is about a semester long. If you teach it at a community college level, you can do everything from teach it from a book. You can use online courseware, such as Rich is going to talk to you about. There's a number of different options that are there. As an instructor and as an organization, we offer the LPI Academy for free. You want to sign up for the LPI Academy, it's 0 cost. We'll give you support as an instructor and as an academy, and we'll also talk about how much does your coursework cost in a minute. You have a question?
Yeah, is it Linux Plus, or is it just Linux?
Oh, so when you look at Linux Essentials is strictly LPI. The Linux Plus is the equivalent of the LPIC 1.
Okay.
CompTIA used to have their own Linux Plus certification years ago. They found it was incredibly complex and costly to do that. They decided to partner with LPI. LPI's LPIC 1 program is private labeled as CompTIA's Linux Plus. I'll talk to you about the 3-in-1 advantage where you can get 3 certs for taking 2 exams in just a minute. Okay? That brings us over to the LPIC 1, the LPIC 2, and the LPIC 3. This is a well-formed, well-respected, industry-recognized stack for professionals that can take you 10 to 15 years into the future. People will typically experience Linux at the Linux Essentials level. They'll get the Certificate of Achievement. They'll get some sort of internship or a preliminary job in the industry. They'll continue to work towards the LPIC 1. It usually takes you anywhere from 3 to 6 months per exam, either to teach or to learn the LPI Level 1. They are not simple exams. They are well respected because of that. Where you would teach this in a single semester, you would take at least 2 semesters to teach the. How many are teaching the LPIC 1 now? Anybody? Hence the reason why you're here. Okay. What was the thought? LPIC 2 is more difficult. It involves more system administrator, a few more of the programming side of things. We don't go into standard programming. We do a lot of heavy-duty scripting, which is what system administrators do. And the LPIC 3 is broken up into a number of different electives. You'll see virtualization, you'll see mixed environments, and we made a recent change to the Level 3 so that instead of 2 exams, you only need to take 1 of the exams in order to be certified at Level 3. If you looked at a very large pyramid, there's a big section at the bottom which is the foundation of Linux Essentials and LPIC 1. There's a smaller set up above that is the LPIC 2, and outside of Japan, LPIC 3 is not that big right now. Japan, Korea, and some of the other more engineering-related societies have gone quite far in the LPICT 3 level. So this will take you get started on this track, this will take you a long ways into the future. I always tell students, and I still teach quite a bit, I always tell students that if you learn Linux as a server and system administrator, as an operator, you're entering into a career path that if you even remotely try to maintain it on a yearly basis by continuing your learning, can last you 15 to 20 years, easily. Ask somebody who got into Unix right at the very beginning if it's been a lucrative career path. Absolutely. Okay, no worries with that. Why would you get certified? I present to you one of our partners, Matt Ganayadek, who is from Odesk, which is one of the, probably the world's largest online workplace. And we use Odesk a lot because students who are in community colleges or colleges need to get experience. And my joke is always, why would you wait on tables or move tables around if you can get verifiable work experience in your field that you're trying to break into? So go out to Odesk and register yourself as a student, and go see what they have. I have students who will go and they'll move people's Apache web servers around. They'll do installations for folks. They'll do a little bit of database work here and there. One of my students had 300 Odesk hours worked and got a temporary to go permanent system administrator job that turned into a permanent arrangement. That was the first one. This was several years ago. We continue to have students who go out and prove their work experience before they even enter the interview process. So they'll show up with a verifiable work record of several hundred hours. Written recommendations from the various folks that they work for, and a rating system from 0 to 5 for each one of those individual gigs that they've done. All they have to do is print it out, put that with their resume and a cover letter, and that shows that they have the experience in the industry. Also, when you look at it, folks like to go to a place like Odesk in order to try people out. They don't know if they want to hire them full-time. They don't know if they want to have a long-term gig with them. Let's test it out for 30, 60, 90 days. If it works out, this could turn into something great, and it often does. We have students who don't even make it to the end of their 2-year cycle for their education before they're already accepting a position. So we find this is a great thing. So let's read this really quickly. Having the LPI certification will give a job seeker the competitive advantage that increases their earning potential. And they did a comparison, and they found that someone who has particularly the LPI certification, they get about a 25% higher pay rate, and the gigs that they're on are anywhere from 25 to 50% longer than those who are not certified. This is from a candidate pool of well over 1,500 candidates with the LPI certification in their world. Okay, this is something they were willing to commit to publicly, and this has also gone off to our friend Cisco so they can see this. Okay, now let's talk about the LPI Academy program. This is kind of the fun part of the presentation for me, because now Chuck's actually responsible for this piece of it. He'd been trying to explain this in such a way that we got everybody on the table who was actually at the table. So let's take a look at what the LPI Academy really is. LPI Academy is this partnership, or this connection between, actually, you know what, Chuck, guess what? There, watch, ready? This is the notes. This is the real. So it's made up of education-related folks, educators. It's made up of you instructors, your colleges, and all the folks that surround education, because they look at the opportunity of Linux and open source, and they go, hey, you know what? We're hearing a lot about this. Our students are wanting to know more information about this. We know that the industry is demanding this. Let's figure out how to do it. It takes certification. It takes a certification body like LPI, who's world recognized and has a set of certifications that employers, HR professionals, contractors, etc. will recognize and demand. And then it takes experience. The employers and the agencies who then scoop these folks up or are putting the jobs into the system are the ones that are letting people know that if you have this certification, I will give you preference. You'll come to the front of the line. Odesk likes to promote the fact that people have the LPI certification when it's a Linux-related gig. Doesn't matter if it's Red Hat, doesn't matter if it's CentOS, doesn't matter if it's Ubuntu. Why? Because we're vendor and distribution neutral. It doesn't matter. It's Linux. It's not just one flavor of Linux, it's all of Linux. So what's the ultimate goal here? Get the interview and impress the heck out of them, right? How do you get a job without having an interview? Very seldom does somebody just call you up and go, I was reading your online profile, I thought, hey, you know what, we'll send this person some money. No, there's a process that's there, and I've had so many people say, I don't believe in certification, and yet they don't get interviews. Wonder why that is. I had one guy who refused to get a certification until he lost a plum gig that he was absolutely qualified for. There was no question that this was the right person for it. And because the organization did not have the flexibility to give him a waiver that says you don't have to have a particular certification for this job, he lost the job to a less qualified candidate. Okay? That's enough to make me a believer in certification right there. So the LPI Academy program, that's what it's made up of. The LPI Academy program is our piece of work that makes it easier. We used to say easy, but people didn't agree with that. Makes it easier for you as an instructor to teach your students the industry skills that they need in order to go get a job in our industry. Okay? Every HR manager that's out there has either a real or imaginary set of clipboards hanging on the wall next to their head that says, these are the jobs that I need to fill. If you walk in with just, and I say just as if, I don't want to cheapen the 2 or 4 years, but if you walk in with a degree that is a more generic degree, what are you asking that HR professional to do before they can put you into that job? A lot of work. Okay, verify. I've got to parse who you are and what you are. I've got to figure you out and study you. However, if one of those job roles matches the certification that you show up with, what am I much more likely to do? Great, that one's taken care of. Let's get you in the interview process. Let's get you the job. Let's go on to the next one. Treat your HR professional as if their time is worth a lot of money, because it is. Okay, so when you look at the benefits of becoming an LPI Academy for free, you get free train-the-trainer sessions, real-world lab access from us and NDG. Rich is going to talk to you about that. Lots of course content recommendations. We do not force you to use any particular courseware. Whichever one you use, you should verify that it matches our objectives, but other than that, we're fine. And we will definitely help you align your current courses, and not your current courseware, but your current courses, so that they match our industry certifications. Yes, sir?
Do you help instructors get commercial training in Linux?
Right now, the LPI Academy is strictly academic. And we don't, I'm not sure if I answered your question right, but we can help you with vouchers, and we can point you to some places that have training available, but we don't actually pay for that training like MPICT would. However, we do come to the MPICT, several of you, Carrie, where's Carrie? Oh, there we go. Several of you have been to our training courses that MPICT has put on at Coastline Community College last year. We're talking to High Tech and Bay Tech, and several others, and Cassia, in order to put this training out where it's available. Does that help?
Yeah, good. And I'm just saying, let's say if I want to teach Red Hat and there's a commercial trainer all that in for academic purposes, can I do that, or you would need help with that?
Not sure if I'd help you with the Red Hat one. It's kind of not really.
Oh, I'm just, let's say CISA or whatever training, because that helps a lot to deliver classes once you go through the face-to-face commercial.
I wouldn't be able to do it commercially because that costs real money. That's not how we're funded. What I can do, though, is put you into our Train the Trainer sessions, which will get you a long way towards being prepared for that. Did anybody here attend any of the Train the Trainer, the Linux deep dives and all that? Okay, we had several people that I talked to we actually had quite a few people who went through that program.
What was that?
When you register as an instructor, we send you out a link so that you can get access to those recordings. And then we continue to do webinars on a consistent basis. That's one of my roles. Yes, sir?
Yeah, it's like a program. So I help assign mentors for the high school cyber competitions. And so is there courseware that those mentors can get access to? You know, they're not making money, they're all volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, learning Linux is a big thing for, you know, security, especially for the high school students.
Yeah, so what we have is Rich can answer that, I think.
All right, so we've been working on the LPI Academy curriculum strategy, and the first 2 courses are going to be rolled out at Linux Essentials, which I'm going to show next day. If you're Cisco Academy, you'll be able to follow that for free. So if they're a Cisco network academy, and they join the LPI Academy, they'll have access to that for their students. Now, that's the only pathway we can create right at the moment. Now, assuming that pilot goes well and go into production, then it will potentially be available worldwide to anyone that helps use the net space. You know, we'll also look to make it available through other mechanisms potentially, but obviously that's a pretty strong partnership. We got 10,000 schools worldwide. Second option is, if you know any school that has our product, we have a Linux Plus lab library. My Timor has it. I don't know if you set up Linux Plus.
No, I don't have Linux Plus.
Did you set up Linux Plus yet?
No.
Israel has it. You set up Linux Plus. So he could work with one of your schools to give them access to it. And then they could get resources to the labs. But we also give it to instructors, and we can't give it to students because then the challenge is how you serve every student.
Now, until those particular parameters are met, like Cisco Networking, the pilot goes through, there are several options. You can go to lpi.org, hit the exam preparation tab, and you'll see that for Linux Essentials there is a free PDF from our partner Lynn Upfront over in Germany, which has a lot of good exercises. It's definitely written from English as a second language, okay, and it's translated, but it's a reasonable resource. Also, you can request, if you need to, from Wiley, most of you have a relationship with Wiley Cybex, can go request a copy of Rod Smith's Linux Essentials book. You might have to wait a week or 2 in order to get it, but you will get a copy of that. So wiley.com, search for Linux Essentials, and go do the desktop review copy. Okay, so that'll get you along that process. You can also let them go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's also accompanying teacher support materials that go along with it.
Yeah. Slides, exercises. I wouldn't call them labs. Rich does labs. These are exercises. A test bank of about 50 pages of questions for the exams, and a teacher guide syllabus kind of thing. So there's lots of support. When you register as an academy and then register as an instructor, we send you all those resources, and you've got all those links to get them like that. Okay, does that help? So you can also take advantage of those resources. Since we don't offer the commercial training, but we can probably get you in touch with a partner who would give a pretty decent discount.
I guess sometimes they do, you know, if they have a class that's not filled last minute, they give you a seat and you go and
you can contact Guru Labs out of Colorado, and they will sometimes have a seat at a friends and family kind of educational rate. Keep track of High Tech, Bay Tech, the MPICT summer conference, etc. We will be offering classes in those. And also Cassia on the 20th has an online class which I'm holding for Linux Essentials. 20th of January.
Timor will be bored in that one though. He knows Linux really well.
Okay. All right, well let me move on because I want to make sure I give some time to Rich here. So Rich mentioned it's true, the LPI Academy now includes Linux Essentials, which is that 0 to 12 months of experience.
It's their final sign.
It's a sign of the apocalypse or something. That's sure what it is. I guess we need a little enlightenment. Just a second here. Hold on. Here, I'll take care of that. All right. And also, this is a single semester course. It's very straightforward for you to teach this in a single semester. It's not a heavy duty course. We don't even make you get certified in order to teach Linux Essentials. That's kind of our gift to you for your time. Also, when you're going to be doing the Linux Plus powered by LPI, which is our level 1, we give you a couple of vouchers as a registered instructor, certified instructor, and we'll also give you a 6-month grace period. I'm an instructor first and foremost. I understand what it's like to have to create my own labs, have to study on my own time, and oh, by the way, you're going to teach another course next week. Okay? It's something that's not a lot of fun. So we tried to make this a high-quality program that has some controls to it, but let's make it something that the instructor can live with, okay? So the 6-month grace period is what we're able to offer, plus the vouchers for that. Okay, steps to join the LPI Academy, pretty straightforward. If you are the instructor and the administrative contact, if you're the instructor who typically signs things for your school, then you can become an LPI Academy very quickly. You go read the LPI Academy agreement. It's an online agreement. You do not have to sign anything. You click the checkbox that says, yes, I agree, and off you go. We're going to send you the welcome email. Okay, there's the Academy sign up. Here's Chuck's welcome email to you. And you'll notice that this is blanked out because I want you to go and register as an instructor, and then we'll send you the other information. This welcome email has a lot of really good information in it, including how to get your instructors registered. My instructor sign-up process here. The benefits, instructor support materials, access to all of those. Free exam vouchers, 30 days of NetLab plus access for you to try that out, test it out, get your skills up. Two or more free skills webinars. We've had 4 so far, and we're going to have a Google group, kind of a forum that we're putting together, a little Google site with some groups on it and things like that, so you can start talking to each other. Okay, that process, there's the instructor materials, how to get your vouchers, get certified, all the things that you need, how to get access to the labs. The moment you register as an instructor, we send it over to NDG and they get on the process of giving you access to the labs. Okay? Coursework and curriculum. Now, a lot of folks are in one of these 3 categories. We already have an existing program that we need to do something with. We're used to teaching this. People don't like to think about the fact that every year or 2 things change a lot. How many of you have been using the same curriculum for a particular course for a number of years? Okay, all right. It happens, you know what I mean? It's also hard to make changes in the system sometimes. So we have these existing programs. Some folks are going to be following this year, maybe next year. They'll start up in the fall. And we have a few that are still unconvinced, and they're really not sure about this whole Linux thing. Not sure how you could be unsure at this point about what's going on. So for those who have an existing program, we noticed as we looked at the various programs that were sent to us that we cover about 90%, or they cover about 90% of Linux Essentials objectives right out of the gate. Your typical intro to Linux and Unix covers about 90%. The 2 sections that it doesn't typically cover is why are we such weirdos in the Linux and open source community? That's not how we usually say it. Why is this an interesting environment? And licenses, distributions, and some of those other things. Some people will dedicate a whole page and a half to that kind of thing, but we feel it's a lot more important than that. Because you'll come across things as a new person in this environment that you really aren't sure why they're doing what they're doing. A small amount of explanation at the beginning of your experience in this environment will smooth things out a great deal. Okay, it's kind of like the whole, we're not going to talk to you for the first 3 months that you're on the job, and if you make it through that, then you can be part of the team. We decided to flip that around. Okay, let's not do it that way. We have a certification mapping matrix. It's a spreadsheet that has all the objectives in it. It makes it easy for you to map your current course to what we then offer. What if you're piloting Linux this year or next year? Well, of course you need to have curriculum. We'll talk about that in just a second. Do you have, some of these will point to NetLab, some will point to the curriculum. Do you have a need to have students work offline? Okay, a lot of schools now are obviously going to a format where the student can pretty much study 24 hours a day. They can do their labs on demand. They can kind of schedule their own time. I forget what somebody used. Was it John this morning used the phrase? That basically you're doing an appointment. You're going to do what you're going to do, but you're not going to do it with somebody there. You're going to do it on your own time and verify it later. Okay. So if you have those needs, this points more to an online lab scenario than it does coming and putting your butt in the seat and typing away for several hours in a lab somewhere. How many of you ever had problems with your labs because somebody else came in and imaged all the rest of the machines? You know what I mean? What a nightmare, right? You go in, everything was set up, and you find out that somebody has re-imaged the entire classroom.
It means you're using the whole technology, but you rely on the image.
And nobody would ever do that, right?
If you use NVG, you wouldn't have it, right?
Yeah, you listen there? All right. Okay. Well, we'll get him up here in just a second now that we plugged in pretty good. So the Wiley Cybex series, if you're into the dead tree side of things, this is definitely a way to go. Some students don't think that they've actually gone to a class unless they get a book. And if so, great, it's no problem. However, when you use these materials, I like them for one reason when I'm in the classroom, is that if you're the instructor who gets a book dumped on you and says, you're teaching this in 2 weeks, this is a pretty good series to have dumped on you, because you get a course syllabus instructor guide, you get a complete set of slides that you can teach from. They're not perfect, but they're pretty close. They cover all the topics. Sample set of exercises and about 50 pages of test prep questions. Okay, you could do a lot worse than this series here. We're going to do a lot better than that series in just a second. Now, let's say that you already have curriculum and you don't want to change curriculum. That's fine. It's no problem. LPI Academy is snap in as far as curriculum goes. There's only one rule that I want to impress as clearly on you as possible. There is one place that is the authoritative set of exam objectives, and that's the ones on the LPI website and the same matching set on our wiki. If you buy a book that is more than 2 years old, you are potentially setting up your student to be missing a major piece of the objectives when they get to the exam. You must use the objectives on the website as the sole authoritative exam table of contents. Is everybody okay with that? Do you see why we do what we do? Okay, now having said that, I'm going to jump real quickly here to LPI Marketplace, then I'm going to go back to Rich. You can go to the lpimarketplace.com and you can see all the different courseware, curriculum, exam vouchers, test prep materials, everything you could possibly want is out there. This is curated by us at LPI. There's no old, out-of-date stuff on here. And if there ever is, you let us know. If we didn't get to it, we'll remove it right away. I'm about to take the LPICT 2 book off of there because it's now out of date. Yes, Timo?
How does it compare? I get invitations to Red Hat Academy, and it seems like this is all the limits together. You mentioned that. Do they invite you to Red Hat Academy? Is that a competitor of yours, or is it?
Well, we like to say we're the unacademy, because where you will see that Red Hat will charge you a fairly decent fee, and you have to use their courseware, and you have to use their labs. You'll notice that we literally have flipped that inside out. We think that you're instructional professionals. It's your classroom. It's your lab environment. We'd like to help you build a functional environment that is going to teach your students industry standard certifications. We do not purport that we are the only ones who can do that. So we flipped it inside out, and we want you to have a set of choices on each one of the areas for that. You have a choice for labs. You can use the ones that come with the books. You can use the ones that Rich and his team have developed. You can use 4 or 5 different pieces of commercial training or free training, whichever one you want. I actually get a lot of people who come, especially at shows, who come up and say, I need to get your certification on the Red Hat Professional. Well, you need to get our certification. I thought you guys had all the work that you needed. Well, I just got this great offer for a gig, and they require us to have a certification for non-Red Hat. Oh, all right, that's easy. So you're actually about 75% of the way there if you're a Red Hat Professional already.
Yeah, what is expensive.
It is. So I'm going to pull back here, and this is going to be Rich. Rich is going to come up and talk real quick. You want to just use this guy here, Rich?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thanks, Ross.
Yep.
So I think it's a good segue in. One of the neat things that I've heard people talk about what they liked for the Red Hat was that they had some scripting tools, but I've heard a lot of that went away. I don't know what the status is. Do you know, Timur? They had some nice little interactive scripting, et cetera. They still have that?
I know about the scripts, but I know that you need to be certified and pay a fee, and that's kind of like
Well, you do need to be certified at the LPICT 1 level after the 6-month grace period with us. But
it's the one you require. It's kind of like essentials when you you get about it and stuff. I don't think there's really about it.
Yeah, so what I learned from schools is everybody loves free. Does anybody disagree with that? Yeah, it's like everybody loves free. But free is relative, right? It's like, what am I getting for that investment of free? Because there's opportunity cost. You get something for free, but it's no good, you don't want to spend your energy on it. So we do have a program that costs money. And I apologize it costs money. I wish I could figure out how to make it free. We have a lab library that maps to Linux Plus. This was done by NISTTC. If you've got our product, we push this out to your system, no additional cost. So we do about 20 to 30 different courses aligned to all different vendor programs, including LPI. These labs are readily available on eNetLab's system if you have our product, and all you have to do is enable the virtual machines, and you're off to the races. Okay. Now, here's an example of a setup. Now, if you're an instructor and you're trying to prepare, and we are actually going to do this as a lab work section in the next session. We're going to log in, and we'll let you team up in pairs of twos, and you go in and do some of those Linux labs. We're going to do 7A, which is a lab. You can do any lab you want. I don't really care what you do. You guys can take it anywhere you want. You just log in with a username, password, and you're off to the races. That's Linux Plus, which aligns about LPIC 1 level. But here's what I really think is cool. How many of you have students that really think they're computer hotshots because they can click on icons or GUIs? Yeah, that's pretty common, right? Like 10 years ago, I used to hear this all the time. I want to be a gaming guy. I'm going to work for a gaming company. I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Good for you. What's your vision? I want to be a tester. You know, there's something going on behind these cloud infrastructure. There's something going on the application side. You got to have kind of a vision and skills, whether you're going business management or you're the engineer developing it. So you need knowledge. This is a great program, Cisco Networking Academy. What if you could log in to the Cisco Academy program and learn Linux? What if you could introduce that student that is, let's say, intimidated because you called their bluff and said, hey, a real computer guy knows the Linux command line. What if you log right in here, you click on Learn, and there was this free course offering from LPI and NDG, and you could go down here to Module 4, and we'll actually look at a real chapter, and you could start learning the real Linux command line, one module at a time. Could you guys use that in the classroom, an operating system class, Linux class? And what if it's free? Pretty cool. Now what about on top of that, while they're reading about Linux, because it's new to them, they could actually access a virtual machine inside NetSpace. They can just bang away on that Linux all they want. They're not going to hurt anything. Have fun. Now, what does that mean? That's like putting a kick me sign on my back, right? I've been doing this since 1999. Some smart kid will figure out how to break it. So we're going to pilot it. Pardon me?
We don't need to have for Cisco Academy. We don't have your lab. It's still going to be available.
No, you're going to have to pay. Nobody else in this room is, but you're going to. I'm kidding. That'd be free. Absolutely. It's part of our Give Back program. NDG wrote all this curriculum working with subject matter experts that actually were LPI community participants, and we're providing it free. Really good instructors help us put this together. Now here's the neat thing. One second, I want to show you one more thing. Here's the neat thing about this. We've got more in here for your learner. We actually are putting in not just chapters with access to Linux VMs, but we're actually going to have step-by-step labs. So guess what? You don't have to do. You don't have to write labs. You don't have to set up VMs. You don't have to manage the VM. If you want to introduce them to command line, no matter what your course is, there it is. It's ready to go. There's your labs for all these different modules. Now on top of that, and I think you'll like this a lot, how many of you like to manage quizzes and grade them? Yeah, I hear that from instructors all the time. They want automation, baby. Give me some automation. How about, here's your questions, scroll through, do them, and it automatically grades it for you after they study the chapter. Who wants this? Anybody raise your hand if you want this? Okay, if you didn't raise your hand, don't you dare use it in that space. Raise your hand again. Who wants it so we can get a feel for if you want it or not? Timur, you can't use it. You didn't raise your... Okay, thank you, Timur. All right. Here's the kicker. What's in it for me? Because I can tell you're skeptical. I'm not getting any money from you, so what's in it for me, right? That's a good thing. got to join the LPI Academy. Why does that matter to me? All right. Here is how you have to do something. You're trying to create a business. You want to give it free to people. You got to create a channel. So in the masses, there's value. So we got to get a lot of people to join the LPI Academy, really use the LPI Academy, because then we have the strength of the community. Does that make sense to everybody? Then we can start partnering with other programs. Then as we advance to the more professional certs, we can start charging. So Linux Essentials can be free to build up a feeder system. Does anybody have a problem with that model? Does everybody like it? Okay, great. So if you want to teach your students Introduction to Command Line, this free course, if you want to do the more advanced stuff, we have these lab libraries, but guess what? We're also going to put LPIC 1, lab library, and course, full-blown course, same thing you saw for Linux Essentials, in NetSpace if the pilot goes well. I sign off with that saying, please do the pilots. Please tell Cisco you value it so that we can do the next course. All right? Thanks, everybody. Sorry, Claudia.
No worries. This is exactly why we were excited to have Rich and his team. They approached us. We talked to them about it. This has been a long time coming. We've gotten tremendous response to this. So please get signed up for this. We'd love to have you as an LPI Academy. Chuck and I worked it out, and Rich worked it out so that it was as friction-free as possible. Again, we trust you as professionals. You know, obviously, if somebody's not doing a good job teaching and their students aren't getting the certifications and they're not making it, first thing we're going to do is not land on somebody like a ton of bricks. The first thing we're going to do is notice that, reach out, see if we can help somebody, okay? That's our job. Our job is not to police everybody. Our job is to help everybody, okay? So what I want to do really quickly is switch this back over. Any questions that you folks have? Anything I can answer for you? Yes? How long is the training?
Yeah, like just the first month.
Well, what will happen is if you're, Rich checked me on this, as a brand new instructor, you get
free access to lab environment and do it self-paced.
right, and so you can just walk your way through the lab environment. If you're a Cisco Networking Academy, you will be able to get into the course as an instructor.
If they join the LPI Academy.
Yes, they join the LPI Academy. Okay, so you'll be able to put yourself through the course in a self-paced manner, and then evaluate that and start to use that for your students. Does that help? Okay. And I would always, I say don't just use the one. Use 4 or 5 different resources. Get the free manual, go get a copy of the book, you know, 3 or 4 web browsers, you know, everything you can. Yes?
And do you have an idea how soon that'll be available in the Cisco portal?
By the end of January. Yeah. We got to make it look pretty. We got to do all the marketing, tell all the students about Linux jobs.
And somebody has to record us your videos.
Yeah. That's for self-paced learners. If we get to that point, it'd be interesting to get your feedback on how much you want to help your learners with self-paced. Because you may not want to do a semester of CLI. So you may want your operating system class to say, hey, here's a resource so you can get caught up.
Exactly.
Probably got a lot of students that are struggling with CLI.
Question?
If my institution is not a Cisco member, can I still access the material?
We would encourage you to reconsider and join the Cisco Network Academy.
Because it costs money, and if I'm not using their material.
I talked to John Berkey, who's here, because I think he can work with you. But if not, we'll try to figure out how to accommodate, but we prefer you join the Cisco Network
Do you have a business card I can have?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, see him right afterwards. Okay, so quick resource here. This is the certification mapping matrix. What it is a spreadsheet. It tells you the number of questions, which is also the weight. So if you added up all of the weights of the topics on the exam objectives, it'll equal exactly 60. Guess how many questions are on the exam? Yep, you guessed it, 60. So when you look at the weight of 3, there will be 3 questions on the exam about that particular topic. Okay? So Rich has got some business cards, and I want to open it up for any additional Q&A. Other than that, I want to thank you very much for your time. So go sign up, and then we can